Ends blended Thel chimes with jazz. Farmers tested Zen soil techniques in Iowa fields. There was no sudden utopia. Arguments still happened. Mistakes were made. But now, when humans looked up at the stars, they didn't see judges. They saw neighbors. The real test came 3 months later. A distant system, far beyond conquered space, sent a distress signal. A young species, reptilian, scared, alone, had built their first radio telescope and accidentally tapped into a conquered emergency band. They didn't know the rules. They just cried for help after a comet shattered their moon. The council debated what to do. Some said ignore them, they were too primitive. Others said send a drone with basic aid. Then Lena Ortiz stood in the chamber. We were once that voice, she said. Scared, alone, reaching into the dark, hoping someone would answer. She proposed a joint mission. Humans would go not to lead, but to help. The Concorde agreed. The Odyssey launched again, this time with a Thel botanist, a core engineer, and a Zen peace weaver aboard. They carried seeds, water purifiers, and a simple message. You are not alone. When they arrived, the reptilian people hid at first. But when they saw the human ship open its bay doors, not with weapons but with food and medicine, they stepped forward. A child, small and green-scaled, touched the hull and made a soft clicking sound. Kyle knelt and offered a toy, a wooden bird carved by a boy in Oregon. That moment was not recorded by history books, but it was remembered. On Earth, life went on. Cities still had traffic. Storms still came. But something had changed inside people. They knew now that the universe was not cold. It was waiting to be kind. Years later, when the first human child was born on the joint Mars station, aliens from 5 species sent gifts. The Varel gave a crystal that glowed with the child's first cry. The Thel sent a living vine that bloomed when touched by joy. And Earth, once told it was too wild, too loud, too broken to belong, now stood as proof that growth comes not from perfection, but from the courage to try again. The Council had claimed control. Earth's reply had stunned them not with force, but with grace, and in that grace a new galaxy began. They were going to meet their neighbors, and for the first time, the galaxy would see Earth not as a problem to control, but as a partner to learn from. The conquered had expected silence to mean surrender. Instead, it had been the calm before the truth. The conquered homeworld hung in space like a jewel. Blue oceans, green continents, and cities that glowed with soft silver light. It was a place of order, of ancient laws, of civilizations that had not fought a war in 10,000 years. They believed peace came from control, from knowing who was ready and who was not. Now, for the first time, the belief cracked. As the human fleet emerged from the wormhole near the planet's orbital ring, the council chamber buzzed with tension. Delegates from dozens of species stood in their high galleries, watching the view screens. The Virel sat stiffly, their usual confidence shaken. The core orbs pulsed with uncertain light. Only the Thel remained calm, their long fingers steepled, their eyes full of quiet hope. President Alan Briggs had not come. He stayed on Earth, anchoring the home front. Instead, the human delegation was led by Lena Ortiz, Paul Dawson, and Kyle Briggs. 3 ordinary people who carried the weight of their entire species. They wore simple clothes, dark jackets, plain shirts, no medals, no symbols of rank. They looked more like teachers than warriors. Their shuttle docked at the Grand Concourse, a vast hall where species met under neutral gravity. As they stepped out, hundreds of alien eyes turned toward them. Some glared, some watched with curiosity. None spoke. Lena walked first, her step steady. Paul followed, holding a small case that contained not weapons but seeds, wheat, rice, and a strain of drought-resistant maize developed in Kenya. Kyle came last, his eyes scanning the room not for threats but for signs of understanding. The council speaker, a tall Thel elder named Malus, rose from the central dais. Her voice was like wind through glass, clear and ancient. You stand before the Galactic Concorde not as petitioners but as equals. Explain why. Lena stepped forward. She did not use a translator. She spoke slowly in basic English, knowing the chamber's AI would render her words for all. We did not come to ask for membership. We came to offer partnership. You saw our wars. You saw our mistakes. But you did not see us fix them. You did not see us choose each other when it mattered most. She paused, then opened her hands. We shut down our broadcast not because we were afraid. We did it to show you we could be quiet when the galaxy needed to listen. A murmur moved through the chamber. The core delegate, a hovering sphere of light named Vor, pulsed sharply. Your technology is dangerous. Your resonance drive breaks the laws of safe space travel. It could unravel star lanes. Paul stepped forward now. He opened his case and placed the seeds on a floating tray. This is what we grow on Earth. Food, not weapons. Our drive doesn't break space. It heals it. It creates stable paths so no one has to burn fuel or time to reach each other. We tested it for years. We lost 3 crews perfecting it. We didn't hide that. We learned. He looked at Vor. We're not asking you to trust us blindly. We're asking you to test it with us. Then Kyle spoke. His voice was softer but firm. When you sent your ultimatum, we could have fired back. We had the weapons, but we didn't, because we knew fear makes mistakes. We chose silence so you could see us clearly. He gestured to the view screen behind him. It lit up with live feeds, not of armies, but of Earth. A classroom in Mumbai where children learned alien languages. A lab in Oslo sharing clean water tech with desert villages. A hospital in Lima treating patients with AI built by teenagers in Ghana. This is who we are, Kyle said. Not perfect, but trying. The chamber fell quiet. Even the air recyclers seemed to hush. Then Malus turned to the other delegates. The council must vote, not on whether Earth is dangerous, but whether it is ready. The debate began. The Varel argued for caution. They moved too fast. Their emotions cloud their judgment. The core warned of instability. A species that unites only under threat may fracture again. But the Thel spoke for patience. They showed restraint when they had power. That is rare. That is wisdom, and then a surprise. A small delegation from the Zen. A quiet species of plant-like beings who rarely spoke, rose. Their leader, a being named Orla, whose skin shimmered like leaves in sunlight, said, "We received their data packet. In it was a song from human children. It made our roots hum. We have not felt that in centuries. Perhaps they understand harmony better than we do." The vote was called. One by one, species cast their light. Red for no, blue for yes. The Varel glowed red. The core flickered between colors, then settled on blue. The Thel shone bright blue. The Zen blue. Others followed. When the final count appeared, the chamber held its breath. It was not unanimous. But it was enough. Malus turned to the humans. The conquered rescinds its decree of stewardship. Earth is not a ward. It is a candidate for full membership. Lena did not cheer. She simply bowed her head slightly. Thank you. But the real moment came next. Malus added, however, membership requires shared knowledge. If your resonance drive is as safe as you say, prove it. Open a wormhole to our farthest colony, Gallus Prime, and send a ship through. We will watch. Kyle nodded. We will do it now. Outside, the Odyssey powered up its core. The humans had not brought a warship for this test. They brought the science ark, the one filled with teachers and medical supplies. As the council watched, the ark activated its drive. Space bent. A ring of blue light formed. Through it, the red sun of Gallus Prime became visible. The ark entered the wormhole. Seconds later, a signal came from the colony. Ship arrived intact. No space-time distortion, passengers in good health. A wave of awe moved through the chamber. Stable, safe, instant travel. A dream their science had abandoned, and humans had given it freely. Back on Earth, people still did not celebrate. They waited. But in Houston, Maya Ruiz allowed herself a small smile. She had just rerouted the entire Echo network to support the Ark's jump. No one saw her work, but it held. In the conquered chamber, Malus approached Lena. Why give us this gift? Lena looked her in the eyes. Because a galaxy that shares knowledge doesn't need rulers. It needs friends. The stunned silence that had once belonged to Earth now filled the heart of the Concordat they had claimed controlled on Earth's. Reply had not been a shout, it had been an open hand. The vote was final. Earth was no longer under watch. It was invited in, not as a child to be guided, but as a voice to be heard. The council chamber, once filled with doubt, now hummed with something new, curiosity. Delegates who had never spoken to humans before stepped forward, asking quiet questions about music, farming, and how humans healed broken bones so fast. Lena Ortiz stood near a window that looked out at the conquered homeworld's twin moons. She felt tired but calm. Beside her, Paul Dawson watched a group of Thel scientists examine the maize seeds he had brought. They touched the kernels with gentle claws, marveling at how one plant could feed so many. Kyle Briggs spoke with Kess, the Varel Sentinel, who now wore a small human-made pin on his chest, a tiny Earth globe, given as a gift by a girl in Nairobi through the data packet. No treaties were signed that day. No grand speeches echoed through the halls. Instead, real talk began. Humans shared how they cleaned oceans with bacteria. The Zen offered ways to grow food in zero gravity using sound waves. The Core showed humans how to store memories in light crystals. It was not diplomacy. It was friendship, slow and careful, like planting a tree in dry soil. Back on Earth, the silence finally ended, not with a bang but with a broadcast. President Alan Briggs stood in the White House garden under a clear night sky. He did not wear a suit, just a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up. He looked into the camera and spoke to the whole world and beyond. "We were told we were not ready," he said. "But readiness isn't about power. It's about choice. We chose to listen. We chose to share. And today the galaxy chose to listen back." He paused, then smiled. "Welcome home, Kyle. Welcome home, everyone." The message was sent through every channel, radio, laser, and the Echo network. It reached the Odyssey, the Science Ark, and even the listening post near Proxima Centauri. On the conquered homeworld, alien delegates watched it on their screens. Some did not understand the words, but they understood the warmth in his voice. Over the next weeks, small changes began. Human engineers worked with Varel builders to design quieter engines. Thel healers shared plant-based medicines with doctors in Rio and Manila. Earth's resonance technology was not handed over all at once. Instead, teams from both sides built a new station near Mars, a place where humans and aliens could test the wormhole drive together, step by step. Maya Ruiz moved her operations to that station. She still worked in the shadows, but now she trained alien coders in quantum networking. Derek Boone helped design joint defense drills, not to fight but to rescue. When a solar flare threatened a core research outpost, human ships were the first to arrive, shielding the station with their hulls until the storm passed. People on Earth noticed the shift too. Kids drew pictures of Varel with smiling eyes. Musici? He was paralyzed by fear, but he wasn't. He was waiting. He knew that silence was the most powerful answer when arrogance expected noise. Let the conquered think they'd won. Let them grow comfortable. On day 38, the Odyssey received its final orders. Not through radio, not through laser, but through a single quantum pulse sent from Maya's hidden node. The message was simple. Go. Kyle nodded. He didn't speak. He just tapped a sequence into the console. The resonance core hummed to life, a low vibration that ran through the ship like a heartbeat. Outside, space itself seemed to ripple. Stars blurred. Then with a soft flash of blue light, the Odyssey vanished. It didn't fly away. It folded space around itself and stepped through. Back on Earth, no one celebrated. No alarm sounded. The silence held. The Concorde's nearest listening post orbited a gas giant in the Proxima Centauri system. It was a massive crystalline structure, humming with ancient tech, staffed by Varel sentinels who had watched lesser species for centuries. They expected no surprises. Their sensors scanned the void constantly, looking for warp signatures, ion trails, anything out of place. They saw nothing, until the Odyssey appeared, not with a bang, not with a warning. One moment, empty space. The next, a human ship hung there, silent and dark, less than 1,000 kilometers from the station. The Varel scrambled. Alarms blared inside the crystalline halls. Fighters launched from hidden bays, their wings unfolding like angry insects. Weapons charged. Targeting locks flickered to life. But the Odyssey did not move. It did not raise shields. It did not fire. Instead, a single channel opened, a narrow-band transmission, unencrypted, carrying only audio. A human voice came through, calm, clear, young, but steady. "This is Commander Kyle Briggs of Earth Vessel Odyssey. We come in peace. We bring no weapons. We ask only to be heard." The Varel hesitated. This was not how primitive species behaved. They expected screams, threats, desperate pleas, not this quiet confidence. Inside the Odyssey, Kyle took a breath. He knew the next few minutes would decide everything. He pressed a button. A data packet began uploading, a gift, not a threat. It contained Earth's full scientific archive, Every symphony ever recorded, every poem, every child's drawing scanned into digital form. And at the end, a live feed. Hundreds of children from every continent, standing together in a field in Kenya, singing an old folk song in dozens of languages, their voices blending into one. The Varel didn't understand the words, but they understood harmony. They understood unity. Still, protocol demanded a response. One of the senior sentinels activated the station's defense grid. Energy beams lanced out not to destroy but to disable. But the beams never reached the Odyssey. As the first pulse fired, the human ship's resonance core pulsed once, brighter this time. Space twisted. A ring of blue light formed behind the vessel, expanding into a perfect circle. Through it, stars from another part of the galaxy became visible. Then from that ring, another ship emerged. Not a warship. A science arc marked with the symbols of 20 Earth nations. Then another, and another. Within minutes, 5 human vessels floated near the Odyssey, all connected by the same stable wormhole. The Concord's listening post had just witnessed something their science said was impossible. Instantaneous travel across light years. Not through warp, not through jump gates, but through a doorway held open by human hands. The Varel froze, their weapons powered down. Back on Earth, the silence continued. But now it was different. It wasn't fear. It was patience. The Concorde had claimed control. Earth had not argued. It had simply shown them they were wrong. The Varel sentinels on the listening post did not move. Their multifaceted eyes tracked the human ships with disbelief. The wormhole still glowed behind them, steady and silent like a window left open between 2 rooms. Through it, stars from Earth's sky shone clearly. Orion's belt, the North Star, the faint smear of the Milky Way as seen from a quiet field in Montana. Commander Kyle Briggs waited. He did not speak again. He let the silence do the work. Inside the crystalline station, the lead Varel sentinel, named Kess, finally broke protocol. He opened a secure channel to the conquered homeworld. His voice, usually sharp and precise, carried a tremor. They are not what we believed. They have folded space without tearing it. They have brought no weapons.
They have brought...
Children's voices. On the other end, the council chamber fell into stunned quiet. The Thel delegates leaned forward. The core orbs dimmed their inner light. Even the proud Varel elders shifted in their high perches. None of them had seen a species achieve stable wormhole travel before mastering fusion power or planetary unity. It defied every law of cultural development they knew. Back at the listening post, Kess made a decision. He ordered all fighters to stand down. Then slowly he sent a simple signal, a pulse of light in a pattern humans would recognize as a question mark. Kyle saw it on his screen. He smiled faintly. He tapped a response, a single musical note, the same one that began Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was a sound humans had sent into space decades ago, hoping someone might understand its hope. Kess received it. He did not understand the music, but he understood the gesture. He replied with a soft chime from his own people's tradition, a sound used when meeting strangers in peace. For the first time in history, humans and aliens spoke without translators, without threats, without fear. Then Kyle did something bolder. He activated the Odyssey's main display and projected a live image onto the space between the ships. It showed Earth, not as a blue marble, but as a living world. Forests breathing, oceans moving, cities lit by night but not with war, with life. And in the center of the image, a single sentence in every major human language: "We are ready to talk." The Varel watched. Some touched their sensory plates in awe. Others recorded everything. But the real surprise came next. From the wormhole, a small shuttle detached from the science arc. It carried no weapons, no armor. Just 2 people, Dr. Paul Dawson and Lena Ortiz. They had volunteered for this. Paul because he understood the science. Lena because she understood power and how to give it away wisely. Their shuttle drifted toward the listening post. The Varel did not stop them. When they docked, airlocks hissed open. Paul stepped out first, holding a simple data crystal in his hand. Lena followed, her posture calm, her eyes sharp but not hostile. Kess met them at the inner gate, his chitinous limbs folded in what humans might call respect. Paul offered the crystal. "This contains everything," he said, though he knew Kess couldn't understand the words. "Our mistakes, our dreams, our cures for disease, Our plans for clean energy, our art, our math, all of it. Kes took the crystal with careful claws. He inserted it into a reader. Instantly, the station's walls lit up with human knowledge, diagrams of solar farms, videos of coral reef restoration, recordings of jazz and folk songs, equations that solved problems the conquered had abandoned centuries ago. Lena pointed to a screen showing children planting trees in Jakarta. Then she pointed to herself, then to Kes, then to the stars. She was saying, "We care for our home. We want to care for the galaxy too." Kes understood. He turned and sent a new message to the Concord Council. Not a report, but a plea. Do not judge them by their past. See them by what they offer now. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, Kyle watched the exchange on his monitor. He felt a strange calm. This was never about winning. It was about being seen. Back on Earth, the silence continued. But in homes and labs and farms, people felt it, the shift. They didn't know what was happening near Proxima Centauri, but they trusted their leaders. They trusted each other. In Washington, President Alan Briggs stood at his window watching the sunrise. His brother was out there not as a soldier but as a bridge. Alan thought of all the times Earth had been divided, by borders, by beliefs, by fear. And now, in this moment, humanity spoke with one voice. Not loud, not angry, just clear. On the listening post, Paul and Lena were invited deeper inside. The Varel showed them their own history, how they too had once been fractured, how they learned unity only after nearly destroying themselves. There was more in common than anyone expected. Hours passed. Then a message came from the conquered homeworld. It was brief. Send representatives to the council chamber. You will be heard. Paul and Lena looked at each other. They nodded. Kyle prepared the Odyssey for the next jump. This time they would not go alone. The science arc would follow. So would two others, carrying diplomats, teachers, and healers, not soldiers. As the wormhole reopened, wider this time, Kes watched from the station's observation deck. He sent one last signal to Earth, not through official channels but through the echo network Maya had built. It was a simple phrase in broken English, translated by his ship's AI. We were wrong. Maya received it in her bunker under Denver. She didn't smile. She just logged it, then sent back a single word. Welcome. The human fleet gathered near the wormhole. Engines hummed softly. Stars glittered beyond. They were not going to war. The Galactic Conquered Council had watched Earth for a long time. From their distant observation posts hidden among the stars, they saw humanity's wars, its pollution, its hunger for power, and its sudden leaps in science. To them, humans were loud, messy, and dangerous, like children playing with fire near a powder keg. So when Earth finally launched its first true interstellar probe beyond the solar system, the Council decided enough was enough. They gathered their delegates, tall, silver-skinned beings from the Thel Dominion, armored insectoid Varel envoys, and the calm, floating orbs of the core collective, and voted unanimously. Earth would no longer be allowed to decide its own fate. Their message was sent across every known frequency. It poured into Earth's communication networks like a flood. Every screen, every speaker, every satellite receiver lit up with the same cold, translated voice. By decree of the Galactic Conquered Council, Sol System is hereby placed under provisional stewardship. All human space activity must cease immediately. Compliance is mandatory. Resistance will be met with containment. The words echoed in homes, schools, military bases, and labs from New York to Nairobi, from Sydney to São Paulo. People stood frozen. Some cried. Others laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank. But governments knew better. Deep space tracking stations confirmed it. The signal came from outside the solar system. It was real. In Washington, D.C., President Alan Briggs sat in the dimly lit Situation Room. His face was tight, his fingers steepled under his chin. Around the oval table, his closest advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Defense Secretary Lena Ortiz tapped her pen against her notepad, her dark eyes sharp with tension. Dr. Paul Dawson, the nation's top astrophysicist, leaned forward, his glasses reflecting the red alert lights blinking on the wall screen. They think we're animals, Lena said quietly, like we can't be trusted with our own future. They've been watching us for decades, Paul replied. But they only saw the worst parts. The wars, the greed. They never saw the hospitals built after earthquakes. The scientists sharing cures for free, the kids planting trees in cities. Alan didn't speak at first. He remembered his childhood in rural Ohio, how his grandfather taught him to fix broken radios with spare parts, how neighbors shared food during hard winters. That was Earth too. Not just missiles and markets, but kindness and curiosity. What do they want us to do? He finally asked. Shut down everything, Lena said. No more satellites. No Mars colonies. No deep space research. Hand over control of our orbit to their stewards. Basically, become prisoners in our own home. A heavy silence filled the room. Outside, the city hummed with normal life. Cars honking, people walking, lights glowing, but inside, the weight of the galaxy pressed down like a stone. Meanwhile, in Houston, Kyle Briggs stood on the observation deck of Lunar Dock 7. He wasn't supposed to be there. Officially, the Odyssey didn't exist. It was a black project funded in secret by a coalition of 20 nations who feared exactly this moment. The ship was sleek, black as space itself, with a hull woven from metamaterials that bent light and radar. Its engine, a resonance core developed by Paul Dawson's team, could fold space in ways the Conquered didn't think possible. Kyle, younger than his brother Alan but just as steady, watched through the thick glass as engineers made final adjustments. He wasn't a soldier. He was an explorer who'd trained as a pilot, a man who believed humanity's future was out there among the stars, not locked behind borders. His comm beeped. It was a secure line from the White House. He answered without speaking. They sent the message, Alan's voice came through, low and tired. I saw it, Kyle said. What do you think they'll do if we say no? They'll come. And they'll bring more than words. Alan was quiet for a moment. Then, we're not surrendering, Kyle. I know. Back on Earth, the world reacted in waves. Protests erupted in major cities. Conspiracy theorists claimed it was a government hoax. Religious leaders called it a test of faith. But in labs and garages and underground workshops, something else happened. Scientists began sharing data faster than ever. Engineers sketched new shield designs on napkins. Coders built encryption protocols that danced around alien signal patterns. The Concord expected fear. What they got was quiet focus. President Briggs made no public statement. No angry speech. No plea for help. Instead, Earth went silent. All non-essential broadcasts stopped. Military comms switched to tight beam laser links. Civilian satellites powered down. Even social media slowed to a crawl as people turned inward, talking face-to-face, planning in hushed tones. The silence confused the Conquered. Their listening posts near Jupiter picked up nothing but cosmic background noise. Their drones hovering near Mars saw no activity. To them, it looked like submission. But beneath the surface, Earth was awake. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Maya Ruiz typed furiously at a console. She was only 29, but her mind moved like lightning through networks. She'd helped design Project Echo, a system that rerouted all human communication through quantum-entangled nodes hidden in the asteroid belt. The Conquered couldn't trace it, couldn't jam it, couldn't even detect it. Nearby, Derek Boone reviewed orbital defense schematics. A former Marine with a dry sense of humor and steady hands, he'd spent years preparing for this. Not for war, he always said, but for the chance to show the galaxy that Earth wasn't weak. And aboard the Odyssey, Kyle ran final diagnostics. The ship hummed softly like a sleeping dragon. Its resonance core pulsed with a gentle blue light. In 3 days, it would leave lunar orbit. Not to fight, not yet, but to show the Conquered that humanity had more to offer than chaos. The Council had claimed control. They thought Earth would bow its head, but Earth wasn't bowing. It was listening, learning, preparing. And its reply, when it came, would not be shouted. It would be shown. For now, though, the planet held its breath. Cities dimmed their lights. Radios stayed quiet. Children asked their parents if the stars were angry. And high above, unseen and unheard, the Odyssey waited. The Concorde watched. They saw nothing. That was the point. 37 days passed. Earth stayed quiet. No radio chatter. No satellite pings. No live streams from the moon base. Even the deep space telescopes that once scanned the heavens for alien signals now pointed downward, as if studying their own home for the first time. From their observation post near Jupiter and Saturn, the Concorde's drone sent back the same report: silence. Total silence. The Varel envoys interpreted this as surrender. The core collective agreed. Humanity had finally understood its place. Only the Thel delegates hesitated. They remembered how humans had once sent golden records into space, filled with music and whale songs, hoping someone might listen. That wasn't the act of a species that gave up easily, but the Concord saw no movement, no defiance, no panic, just stillness. And stillness to them meant obedience. What they did not see was what happened beneath that calm surface. In underground labs across the globe, teams worked around the clock. In Oslo, engineers tested new gravimetric dampeners that bent light around objects. In Nairobi, programmers refined quantum encryption that made messages vanish the moment they were read. In Buenos Aires, biologists shared genetic data on radiation-resistant crops that could feed colonies on distant worlds. None of this was broadcast. None of it left Earth through normal channels. Everything moved through Project Echo, the hidden network Maya Ruiz had helped build. Maya sat in a dim room deep under Denver, her fingers flying across a holographic keyboard. Around her, walls glowed with shifting data streams. She wasn't just hiding Earth signals. She was weaving them into something new, a ghost network that lived in the spaces between atoms in the quiet hum of entangled particles. The Concord scanners couldn't find it because it didn't travel through space. It simply was, everywhere and nowhere at once. Derek Boone stood on a platform overlooking a massive hangar in Nevada. Below, technicians worked on 3 new orbital defense platforms, sleek, disc-shaped craft armed not with missiles, but with focused gravity lenses. These wouldn't destroy enemy ships. They would gently nudge them off course like redirecting a river with a single stone. "We're not here to start a war," Derek had told his team. "We're here to make sure we never have to." Meanwhile, the Odyssey drifted in the shadow of the moon, cloaked by experimental shielding that bent starlight around its hull. Kyle Briggs floated in the command module, reviewing star charts. His crew, 12 men and women from 6 different countries, moved with quiet purpose. There was no shouting, no panic, just focus. They knew their mission wasn't to fight. It was to show Paul Dawson back in Houston monitored the resonance core from a secure bunker. The technology was risky. If the core destabilized, it could tear a hole in local space-time. But if it worked, it would prove humanity could open stable wormholes, something the Concord believed impossible for a species so young. Paul had spent 10 years perfecting the math. Now, it was time to test it in the real dark. President Alan Briggs walked alone through the White House gardens at dawn. The world thought he